And yet Jesus drew near to them and they didn't recognize him. And so this morning I've asked 4 people to come and to share a testimony of times in their life when Jesus drew near and they didn't recognize him until the moment they did. And when they recognized him, it's one of those moments you kind of look back and go, wow, I can see you were working here and here and here. But before we go into it, before I invite them up, I'm going to read the scriptures to you and then I'm going to invite them up. In Luke 24, verse 13, it says, "Now behold, 2 of them were traveling that same day to the village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they talked together of all the things which had happened. So it was while they conversed and reasoned that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained and they did not know him." And then you drop down to verse 25, it says, "And as he came, he said to them, O foolish ones and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Then they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening and the day is fast spent. And he went with them. Now it came to pass as he sat at the table with them, he took the bread and he blessed it, and he broke it, and he gave it to them. Then, everyone say then. Then their eyes were opened and they knew him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to one another, Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us? So they rose up that very hour and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 and those who were with them gathered together, saying, The Lord is indeed risen and has appeared to Simon. And it got me thinking through the week and over the last couple of weeks, how often Jesus is walking beside us, speaking to us. Sometimes he speaks to us through bringing scriptures back to our mind. Sometimes he speaks through circumstances and situations, through orchestrating and organizing moments in our life that direct us and help us to realize he's there, prompting us, talking to us, calling us, even when we don't recognize it, or at least not in the moment anyway. To help us realize that this morning and to recognize it, I've invited 4 incredible speakers to come and share. I was here for the last message, so I know how good they were. And I just want to say at the end of this, we're going to invite you to respond and give you a moment to actually connect with Jesus in a fresh and real way. I'm going to ask you this morning, why don't we put our hands together for the amazing Rachel as she comes.
Hello, thank you. That's a lot of pressure when Pastor Phil says it's awesome, it's going to be awesome, and then you come up and I'm like, I really hope it is. So I hope it's awesome for you guys. I am very privileged to be able to come and speak to you about my testimony this morning. I wanted to share with you one of the most impactful seasons in my life where I didn't realize that God was with me, talking to me and helping me. And there's so many moments, but God loves to remind me of this specific season of my life, because whenever I forget that God is there, he reminds me, look what I did here, remember? And it's really annoying. But this was in high school, and at that point, I did not have my own faith yet. I knew about God because I had grown up in a Christian family. If you talk to any person in my family, you will either know that they served in ministry, they are pastors, or did missions in Brazil. And I felt very inadequate when I was in high school because they were all super godly Christian people, and I was just me. And I knew him, but I didn't actually know him personally. And there was a time right before I finally accepted God into my life where I felt incredibly lonely and discouraged. I was going through some pretty deep mental health struggles. School was hard, and my friendships and the friends that I was choosing were not great. I often felt like I didn't really belong anywhere, and that I was constantly trying to satisfy both sides of my life. At school, I was trying to be the cool, hip person that, wasn't the weird Christian girl. And at home, I was trying to hide that I wasn't trying to be cool like them. I was the perfect Christian girl at home, And that was hard. And during that time, I remember feeling like God was with everyone else around me, working in their lives, working through them, doing miracles, except for me. Around that time, I had a friend who kept on asking me to go to youth. And when I mean kept on asking, it was literally every single week on a Thursday or a Friday, she would be like, Rachel, come to youth. Rachel, come to youth. And I'd be like, no, I don't want to go. I've been to youth before. I didn't like it. Stop asking me. Finally, one day, I was like, fine, I'll go. Not because I wanted to experience God and that whole Christian, I wanted to go to God, but because I just wanted her to shut up. I wanted her to stop asking me to go to this random youth that I didn't know anyone except her. And that night, during worship, I accepted Jesus into my life. After that moment, I started looking back over my life and began to realize that God had been with me the entire time. I just didn't recognize that it was Him who was putting all the puzzle pieces in my life. I could see how He had been guiding me when I felt lost. I could see how He had been protecting me from situations and choices that could have been really harmful to me and the people around me. He was opening doors that I didn't walk through, and He was closing doors that I was frustrated that He was closing doors because everything felt like it lined up for this door to open, and He closed it, and I was getting frustrated. But those doors were things that would be harmful to me. I could see that He had been placing the exact people in my life at the exact moment in my life when I needed them most. Even in my hardest moments, when my mental health was at its worst and I felt completely alone, God was near. He was comforting me. He was strengthening me and carrying me through moments I didn't think I'd get through. Just like the disciples, I didn't recognize Jesus while He was literally walking right next to me, carrying me when I didn't think that I would get through what I was going through. I realized He had been there all along once I accepted Him into my life. Realized that He had been loving me, protecting me, and gently, very gently, leading me towards Himself. And that's something that I still hold on to today and that I'm reminded of constantly, that even when we don't see Him, even when we don't feel like He's there with us, Jesus is always closer than what we think. I want to invite my amazing husband, Toby, and he is going to share his testimony.
How great. I feel like I can be like, yay, bragging. That's my wife. She's pretty cool. My testimony is a little bit different. I've had a lot of moments in my life where I haven't looked, like I've been listening to God, and then I hear Him later and I look back and I go, that was God. But one thing that stood out the most was last year I really struggled. I was going through a season of hurt, of feeling betrayed, feeling let down, feeling like my parents had actually failed me. And it got to the point where I was so frustrated. Every single time we went over to their house for dinner, every time we were around them, I felt so hurt because I was like, I felt internally, you didn't push me enough for this thing, you should have pushed me more and then I would have gotten my license earlier, but you didn't. That's your fault. Or you pushed me too much with this. On that day that I said, no, I can't do this, you pushed me too much. And I felt all of that. And I was feeling hurt. I was feeling angry and bitter towards my parents. And that's not a feeling that I particularly enjoy because I love my parents, I do. But it started to get to the point where I don't want to be around you because I don't like the feeling that I feel. And I was asking God, I was going, God, what do I do? I was asking my wife, what do I do? How do I get rid of this feeling? And then I rock up on Sunday. I'm sitting and I'm listening to the sermon. Conveniently, it was a sermon about forgiveness. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, a forgiveness message. It was beautifully spoken as well. So I'm thinking to myself, I hope someone understands that. I really hope they get it because that's true. We all need forgiveness. It's amazing. And then a week went on Once again, complaining to Rachel, how do I get over this? How do I get through it? What do I do? She's like, have you asked God? Have you sought God? Have you tried listening to God? And I'm like, yes, of course I've done all of that. Ooh. I'm a Christian, of course I've done that. It's a pretty dumb question. So I sit in the sermon on the next week. There was another forgiveness message. And so I'm sitting there going, hang on a second. There's a forgiveness message. I really hope that person gets it. I hope they get it, because this is 2 weeks in a row. Mate, they are just being blessed right now, aren't they? But hearing that. And then repeated the same process. Once again, complaining. What do I do? And on the third week, spoiler alert, finally get it. Sitting in the row, and I'm like, oh. It's for me. That's it. It's been the past 3 weeks where he's been going, hey, you know how I've forgiven you? You know how I loved you so much, and you've done some dumb things in your life. I still forgave you. And then the next week, hey, Toby, maybe we want to start looking at this forgiveness avenue, hey? Because you know how I love and forgave you, you need to forgive others. And being able to sit in that moment, it was an incredibly awkward moment sitting down with my parents and sitting there and going, Mum and Dad, I forgive you for this. Mum and Dad, I forgive you for this. Turns out parents don't have it all together. Turns out that apparently raising 4 children of varying ages with varying needs and different journeys is a lot for 2 people who are trying to work full-time jobs. But for me to be able to sit in that space, be blind to what God was doing, he was right there. I was in church, sitting in that space, ignoring him essentially, but then stepping into that space of forgiveness and understanding that that forgiveness from God is far greater, is such an amazing thing. Seeing with new eyes the forgiveness, the love, the grace of our God. That was what it was for me. And I can honestly tell you it's changed my life. And there's been so many moments. But for me, that's seeing my God in a new light, with new eyes, with fresh eyes, has been one of the most powerful things for me. And as I invite Dylan up, I'd love to close in prayer. God, thank you. Thank you for the lessons that you have taught me. Lord, thank you for the fact that you are always there, you're always speaking. Even when we're not listening, you are always speaking. And thank you for the journey that we have. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Two seconds. Okay. So today I want to share a little bit of a chapter of my life, a bit of a testimony of this part of my life. So I've learnt when my resources run out, God's still got resources left. And I want to tell you all an example from my life of how I've seen this is true. So when I was 19, I was going out with a girl at the time, and I lived with her at a caravan park. Not sure if many of you are familiar with Mudgebar Caravan Park, but it's actually listed as the worst caravan park in Australia, interesting enough. So at this time of my life, I was pretty reckless. A lot of the surrounding mates I had at the time had been doing a lot of bad things, including robbing chemists, which led to access of all sorts of prescription drugs, which also led me into an addiction of all sorts. Now, in that, there are all sorts going on in this caravan park, from domestic violence, drug use, and mentally unstable individuals as well. Now, a normal morning for me, going up to the public showers, it was nothing unusual to see a syringe on the ground. So that was pretty normal for the environment I was in, and pretty much everything around me was negative and felt hopeless too. So as the days went on, I got further into a relationship with this girl at the time. I felt more and more an emptiness and a feeling of lost and just no hope. So the longer we stayed together, the more things would fall apart. I stayed at the caravan for quite a while, and she said she'd been hanging out with some friends at the time. Later came to the surface that she was actually seeing another guy, which broke me and just led to further substance abuse. Towards the end of the relationship, I started to fall deeper into not having a hope and starting to have suicidal thoughts and tendencies, which led me further down a hole of destruction. I reached out to my dad, who at the time was living in Melbourne during the COVID lockdown, and at the time I was just saying, I just can't take this anymore. I just felt so lost and hopeless at the time, and I got in touch with my dad, and he got in touch with someone from a church he went to in Queensland. Now this part really blows me away of how God orchestrates situations for his will. Now this mate of Dad's, his name was Anthony, I'll never forget him, and he knew how crazy the caravan park was, and he was also aware that ambulance only came when they were assisted by the police, but he insisted to still come get me. I was at my wit's end, and this huge Islander bloke pulls up out the front and said he was Dad's mate. So I grabbed my stuff and I jumped in. Without any judgment, he asked if I was okay. He let me vent a bit. I went on to ask him a bit about his journey and his past, and we could both relate about our walks. And then proceeded to take me into his home. He fed me for a couple of days. He took time off work, and he actually bought me a new phone as well. So for me personally, like looking back at this season of my life, I'm just so thankful and blessed to see how God used his resources to take me out of what I couldn't handle at the time. And just as I thought I couldn't take it, and there was no other way out, he provided. But it's only now looking back how close he truly was, and I had no idea at the time. For me, this truly is a time of my life. I had no idea. He had been walking beside me through it all. When I thought all hope was gone, Jesus provided the resources I needed. So for myself, I guess I came to the Lord properly in March this year. What actually made me come to the Lord in March was a bit different from what I once understood. When I actually understood what he went through for me in detail on the cross and before the cross, I felt it deeply within, and it broke me, what he went through for Dylan Patterson. The more I lent in, and the more I learnt his love is like no other. And that's what got me to being baptised. I now see more and more of how, at my lowest points, breaking points, he's always been with me. It's taken for me to come to Christ and look back at these kind of chapters, and know that his resources are always better than ours. So in all this and looking back, this is a reflection to myself that he's always been there by my side, regardless of the situation I've had at hand. Thank you, everyone. So I just want to welcome Beck up. Scary.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. Hello, everybody. It feels so weird doing this twice. I'm like, I've already done it. I feel my story is kind of the typical teenage girl who thought she knew better. Anyone can relate? Yeah? Okay. One in the front, yay. So I actually grew up in church. I came to this church when I was 11, and I joined the worship team. Lisa taught me how to play piano. I went to youth under Pastor Jamie, and I would go to like the Planet Shakers conferences where there's packed auditoriums filled with young people worshiping. They were epic, and I would literally look up on stage and be like, oh, I want to do that. You know, there's people preaching and singing and worshiping, and it was so inspiring. And at the time, what I didn't understand is that ministry isn't actually about a platform. It's actually a calling, and the calling comes with a sacrifice. And It's not a 9-to-5 career job. It actually is a lifestyle. And at the time, I wasn't aware of that, and I definitely wasn't ready to make the sacrifice. Like many of them, like Rachel and Dylan, I guess, got involved with people that I probably shouldn't have, and people that came across my path that I believe now, looking back on, I was meant to influence them. I was meant to be different, and unfortunately, I allowed them to influence me. I never doubted God existed. I always believed in God, but I didn't have an intimate relationship with him for myself. I knew him through my mum's relationship, through Pastor Phil's and Pastor Jamie's, but I hadn't actually got a relationship with him yet for myself. And so I would say I got distracted. I moved in with a boy, we lived on the Gold Coast, and I got very tangled up in the bright and shiny world that the Gold Coast had to offer. It promised fun and fulfillment, and kind of let me down in that regard. I was so desperate to find love, to fit in, to be accepted, and just to find a place where I belonged. And what I didn't realize was that it was actually here all along. So I went looking for it. And I made terrible choices. I allowed my self-worth to be, I guess, identified and shaped by a boy. I thought it was love because I didn't know anything else. So I had no idea what real love was, and I tried to be everything that he wanted me to be. And unfortunately, I never ever lived up to that expectation that he had. So I would change and try something different, and I always fell short. I found myself pregnant, and internally, that 9 months of pregnancy was probably the hardest 9 months for me. I'm not going to cry. I'm not looking at them. I cried really bad the last service, and it was embarrassing. So I'm going to come to this side. I found myself pregnant, and I struggled for 9 months mentally, just, I guess, that spiral of what Tiffany was talking about, of like, can I do this? Am I enough? I just really got to a point that I was so broken and thought I was going to be doing it alone. And when my beautiful little boy came into the world, my God, what is wrong? I am very hormonal, I'm going to say that. Postpartum, had a baby, cannot control your emotions. But I had my little boy, and I was lying in the hospital bed, and Malachi was on me, and I just remember being so overwhelmed by the feeling of love. So just like, all of a sudden, like I understood what true love was. And I realized that what I had experienced was not that. And you could not hurt someone that you truly, like the love that I had for this kid, I was like, I'll never hurt you, I just want to give you the best life. And as I was lying there, I had a thought that popped into my brain, and it was, Beck, that's how much I love you. And for the first time in my life, I can honestly say I heard the voice of God. I can look back now, and I can look at my story, and I can see all the times that God protected me, that he gave me an out that I never took. But his grace for me never stopped. He continually chased me until I finally listened. It still took me over a year to leave that relationship and to actually start pursuing a relationship with God. Because sometimes I think we're finally ready to listen, but we're not always ready to respond. And this morning we've heard the stories, and we would love to give you guys an opportunity to respond. Maybe he's trying to redirect you. Maybe he's just trying to speak to you for the first time. But we would love to stand beside you and pray with you as God speaks to you this morning. The worship team are going to come, and they're going to lead us in worship. And we're going to be up the front ready to pray for anyone who needs prayer. This isn't about shame or pressure. It's actually just about invitation. He is a patient God, and I believe that he is speaking to people every single day. and we would love to stand with you this morning and pray with you.